Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 94. He's Dave Bryan. I'm out with TeamSequel.com. Thanks for tuning in this Friday. Dave, we have a busy show, so let's just jump right into it with a Donte Moncrief signing. Steelers make moves, get replacing chat receiver. Your initial reaction to Donte Moncrief, and also, hey, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy Friday. I'm looking forward to today's spaghetti day at our house.
Very nice.
So
you making that? You making the spaghetti?
Oh yeah. I cook, brother. I do it all. I don't, I blog, I cook here and there, but yeah, normally we have kind of set days for things, and Friday used to be taco day for us, but once old El Paso changed the meat seasoning in that kit there, it really turned me off, so I had to create something else. So I really miss taco day, but anyway, that's become spaghetti day. So exciting day, a lot to talk about with the signing of Donte Moncrief. Obviously, a couple re-signings as well too that we'll get to. You look at Donte Moncrief and you just look and you go down the Kevin Colbert checklist and you match it up with the kind of the Alex Kozora, Dave Bryan needs at wide receiver there, and it's right on course there. I don't think anybody should be too surprised at the addition of Donte Moncrief. I think we mentioned his name a few times in the rundown of possible wide receivers there. He is a wide receiver that's played really kind of all over formations. Really, it seems like most recently got a lot of experience in the X spot, which obviously is what is vacated by Antonio Brown being traded to the Oakland Raiders. And you look at his history, the Steelers had him I think, for a pre-draft visit several years ago. Looks like a good kid on paper as far as X's and O's smarts as well. I wouldn't get over the moon about him here because I think he is what he kind of is at this point. They signed him, I believe, to what was it, a 2-year or 3-year? Two-year deal. So that tells you a little bit right there. He's probably wanting a little bit of bite of the apple to see if he can get one more push at it. And the Steelers probably hopefully aren't going to need him too much longer. Maybe even after these first 2 years here. So. It's an understandable and almost predictable signing.
That's how I framed it, as a classic Kevin Colbert signing to kind of plug that hole short term at receiver. So when you go into the draft, you have the flexibility. You've talked about that before, Dave. That Colbert likes to get those mid tier to low tier signings just to kind of give him some options and put another name on the board that will create that flexibility in the draft. So you don't feel super 100% obligated to take a receiver immediately, and then you reach for a guy, and that's how you get yourself into trouble. But yeah, Moncrief fills the need of playing that X spot, which is very different from what Juju might play in the slot or play at the Z. They're two totally different positions with different skill sets and different demands and things you have to look for, and he's played that well before. He's a vertical threat. He's a big playmaker. He's done well in the red zone on some red zone fades and combative catches. Now his hands are a little suspect. His route running isn't strong. He's not AB in those regards. But yeah, I didn't have Moncrief super high on the radar because I thought the money might be too much. We still don't know how much he's going to cost, but given the cap space his team has and the way that you can massage the cap, I imagine it's workable and isn't too high of a cost, but it doesn't really change the draft plans at all, but was really a necessary type signing.
Right, and I think that's the key thing too that you hit on at the end there. It does not change your draft plans at all. So, and like you said, we have not seen the contract numbers yet, but I'm assuming they got him cheaper than Steven Nelson. Let's put it to you that way. Maybe even. A couple million less per season, 4 or 5 million per season, right around in there. And like you said, I mean, you go down the Kevin Colbert checklist of things here with him. We talk all the times about having familiarity with these free agents. They obviously had that during the way they courted him or whatnot in the pre-draft process and I think pre-draft visit as well too. We talk about pedigree, a draft pedigree, usually drafted in the first 3 rounds. He was drafted in the 3rd round. They also know a couple of people that played with him. They have a couple of those people, I think, on the team in Mike Hilton and who's the other one? Hooks.
Yeah, he mentioned Levon Hooks. Yeah, I think he knows Dupree a little bit. Or was that Nelson? Someone of them knows
Yeah,
Dupree.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I think Nelson knew Dupree.
Okay, there you go. There. So when you look at him statistically, now here's the thing that kind of plays at least in Moncrief's favor. I think when we go back and look at the tape, and I think even I think the great Matthew Marksey hit on this right out of the chute. Is we got a guy here who's had to play with a lot of different quarterbacks over the course of the last 2.5 seasons or so, and if you go back and you look, I know, but you want to get yourself depressed, Alex. Go load up all the incompletions last year from Moncrief with the Jacksonville Jaguars with Blake Bortles and who was the other quarterback over there? Colt McCoy, right?
Cody Kessler.
Cody Kessler over there. Go load up all the incompletions or run that reel by. It'll make you want to jump out the window there because, look, I mean, make no mistake about it. There were a lot of uncatchable balls. I think I counted on the incompletions, and yes, I have no life, 25 uncatchable balls.
Wow.
All right, so that's now obviously that wasn't a league high. In fact, I think maybe Antonio Brown is up there in the league leaders in uncatchable balls last season. But you look at the total amount of targets he had. I bet if we did a total target versus uncatchable ball, it'd be interesting to see where Moncrief comes out of this. He still managed to catch 48 passes for 668 yards, 3 touchdowns last season. You mentioned the drop issue. I think he averages something like 4 drops a season. I think he had 3 or 4 last season. I think you hit on another great thing. He is a red zone threat. I think if you go back and look at his tape and his touchdowns, he finds a way to get himself open in the red zone, and particularly I think within like 10 yards in. You mentioned some fades in there. He's got a couple of those in his tape as well too. But I can't help but go back and state the fact that look at the quarterbacks that he's played, the last really 2.5 seasons there, because his last season with the Colts, obviously they didn't have luck, and then wasn't it about half of the 2016 season? That's right. 2017 they didn't have luck, correct?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
and
9%.
And then 2016 was like half the season without luck, right?
Yeah, I had like Matt Hasselbeck thrown to him.
Right. So if you go, that's one thing to look at there. And in fact, if you go all the way back to, and I haven't done this yet, to his 2015 tape, his second year in the league, that might be because I believe Luck played all that, and obviously he had a good number one, I think, across from him in T.Y. Hilton during those years. That might be the best reflection of the kind of player that they have, because 64 receptions, 733 yards, 11.5 yards per reception, and 6 touchdowns that season. You mentioned the combat catches. He does have some of that on his tape, but I was expecting on going back through and looking at all of his completions from the last 2 years to find more of that. I didn't see so much of that. I mean, he does have it in there. I just don't find him consistently making combative catches. And I also, you tell me, did you see any oh my God catches in there?
No, and when I say combative catches, I meant just in the red zone on some of those fades. I didn't see it elsewhere, between the 20s, because he was really a vertical threat and didn't have a lot of those opportunities. And the hands are a little suspect, so I agree there. But I like that speed. I like his ability to stack cornerbacks. I think he has good speed and good technique running vertical too. He's able to get on top of these guys and basically box them out. So if the ball's a little underthrown, or if they're in stride, he's kind of shielding that cornerback and not letting him make the play. So I like that. And to go back to the pedigree, you look at Steven Nelson, you look at Donte Moncrief. So they're both third-round picks, both 25 years old, both guys the team was interested in coming out of college, both guys that can be playmakers, Moncrief with a deep ball, Nelson creating turnovers. Very easy to see why they're interested in both those guys.
Yeah, and I don't think he, at least I didn't get the feeling that he's a great yak guy right off the top. Now, he did have he did have that big play, 90-something yards last year?
He had a 67-yard touchdown against the Jets. That might be the one you're thinking of.
All right,
I don't think he had a 90-yard play.
Maybe there was one the year before that that he had a little bit longer than that. But regardless, outside of that, he didn't come off as no. He had last year. He had an 80-yard.
Did he? Oh yeah. It was a little over route that the two guys missed. Yeah.
To the right side. Right.
Yep. I bet.
And then he broke that for another, what was it, 60 yards or something like that?
Yeah, like a 30-yard run, I forget.
Right. So, but other than that, it doesn't appear to be a lot of yak. Sometimes I've noticed on some of those underneath crossers, little suspect if he hears footsteps, probably not wanting to go. In fact, I think there might have been one of those against the Steelers last year that I came across, and of course it was one that the Steelers should have intercepted. The ball was low and they didn't come up with. Sometimes you like to see him finish a little bit better coming across the middle. Good route runner, not great. But a good route runner, as you mentioned, I think he can show that he can get up over the top. Obviously, he was the one that double moved Artie. Was it last season?
2 years. That was a Colt. It was a Colt.
It was a Colt. Ago. So he was the one that double moved Artie Burns on that left side touchdown a couple of seasons ago as well. So I'm excited to look. I think both of us had just scratched the kind of surface on him right now, but I am excited. There's going to be a lot of things coming by me, breaking down certain areas of his game on Steelers Depot, and as usual. Boy, you right out of the chute were able to get something up on him within 24 hours, a good kind of profile on who he is, who he isn't. So after all that, where do you view the grade on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a B-. I guess Nelson is kind of a solid B. Moncrief is more of a B-. I mean, I would disagree slightly. I don't know if I would consider him a good route runner. I think he's an average route runner. I think he doesn't get enough separation at the top of his routes as he should. I think he needs to run his routes a little bit harder sometimes. I want to see more consistency with that. I went back, actually looked at my scouting report on Moncrief. I did that on him way back when and had some similar stuff there. So I would like to see some improvement there. I still think he's capable of that. And the last thing is, and going back to reasons why the Steelers would be interested in Moncrief, because he killed this team time and time again. I mean, you look at some of his best stats against around the league, and I think he has the second most receptions against the Steelers than anybody. And I think Jacksonville's first. And you think it'd be AFC South teams because he's played in the AFC South his whole career, but no, Pittsburgh's second. He's got 3 touchdowns. He went 7 for $133 and a score a couple of years ago. So he had the 1 catch for 60 yards against Burns. So this team's been burned by Moncrief time and time again, and they got tired of it. And now they signed him.
Isn't something like 5 or 7 of his career touchdowns against the Steelers?
I think it's 3. I'll double check that. I think he has 16 for like 250 and 3 touchdowns.
I thought I saw more than that, but I'm not 100. I mean, it seems like they do play the Colts every season, though, or have up until last season there. But it seems like he had a little bit. I'm trying to pull up his performance right now.
16, 262, and 3 scores against Pittsburgh in the regular season at least.
Okay, what did he have? Well, these teams I don't think
have a
playoff game against each other there. So, and by good route runner, I kind of meant average at route runner. I mean, there's nothing really eye popping there. It does seem like in press that there's a lot of motion. A lot of efforts utilized to try to get open. Now I think you'll see them. Not a lot of slot, at least last year. Not a lot of playing time in the slot, but as usual, they'll run him out of that 3-man bunch on either side. I think generally he's lined up as the outside guy in kind of that 3-man bunch that you see run. I like seeing him kind of run these slot fades. I think he does that well. He is what he is. I mean, I think it's a little bit too much to think that he's going to catch anything more than X. What would you put? X 60 passes?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be higher than 60, but I don't want to put a number on it until we see the draft and who else comes in. Because, I mean, his role could be very much dictated by the draft. If they get a guy high, I mean, it could be a more of a depth role. If they don't, then he's going to have a more prominent role. So I'm not going to put a number to it right now.
I did not look at special team stuff, but I know, or I did a little bit. He hasn't had much special teams burn until since about, I think, his second season, which would have been, 2015? Is that right?
Right.
That was the last time he got the serious burn on special teams. So this is a guy that more than likely, and especially at his age now, is probably not going to give you much in that aspect.
Any other final thoughts with Moncrief before we hit another topic?
No, just that I want to kind of look at. I think downfield when he played with Luck, obviously a lot better deep pass completion percentage, more like the norm that you would kind of expect around the league there. So it's kind of, it's got to be kind of hard to get a good feel, I think, for him without going back and at least, you want to look at the most recent tape on him, obviously, but boy, the quarterback play in Jacksonville was not good. So I think to get a good reflection on him as we go back through him over the next several weeks here is to look at a good selection of his tape when he played with Andrew Luck.
All right, Dave, let's talk about the other free agent signing, Steven Nelson. Both Moncrief and Nelson had their press conference yesterday with the Pittsburgh media. Any big takeaways from either of those guys, but specifically Steven Nelson and what he spoke to with the Ford? It was a pretty brief press conference for each, but a couple interesting pieces of information came out of that.
I think the big thing is he told us he confirmed what we already knew about him. He played primarily, in fact, I think he used the word almost 100% man coverage with the Kansas City Chiefs there. He talked about how he was versatile and played both in the slot and outside cornerback with the Chiefs, albeit last year was primarily outside for him. He was asked a question if he thought maybe with him moving primarily and playing outside last season with the Chiefs, if that's what if there was a correlation there between his first four interceptions of his career. He obviously said yes. I don't know if you can correlate interceptions to anything, but if you're targeted, if you're on the outside and you're targeted the most in the league, you're probably going to have a lot of chances to intercept balls. And I think in so many words, that's what he said there. He kind of told us, he was asked what he thought it was that attracted him to the Steelers, and it was like he was reading my scouting report on him. A real physical, gritty player. What was the relentless, I think, is a word that he used on top of it there. So kind of real straightforward there. And what was the other thing? I'm trying to remember what was the other thing that caught my attention there.
They said he wasn't worried about the drama. He didn't care about that crap. Was his word?
He didn't worry. He doesn't give a crap about the stuff in the media and all. Hope he sticks to that. We already uncovered an interesting tweet of his from when he was 18. It sounds like he's been a Steelers fan for a while. So him and at least Moncrief's dad. Another thing that stuck out about Moncrief was Moncrief saying that it was a bit of a challenge to play with all these quarterbacks over so far during his career, and that's understandable. I don't think that's a lie. He talked about how he's been asked to run a lot of deep routes so far during his career. That obviously shows up on tape. And then he talked a lot about his dad and how his dad's a Steelers fan and how his dad even predicted, I don't know, what did he say, 4 weeks ago, that he would end up with the Steelers there. So I think you got two players who kind of have some emotional or some sort of invested interest in the Steelers in the past, if you will, in Moncrief and Nelson. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Was there anything else that stood out to you from either of these two's press conferences?
No, not really. But I think guys that appear to be humble, guys that aren't, men of many words, but guys that are going to come in and be ready to work. And I think lacking words and then just focusing on work is what the Steelers team needs right now.
I don't think Moncrief. I think Moncrief even has a tweet out there that says it's time for me to get off Twitter.
Yeah, good call.
I hope he stays that. The worst thing, the thing that we don't really love to do, but sometimes they're forced to, is write about players' tweets or whatnot. And look, I don't mind. I don't mind them getting on there and interacting and all like that. But don't give us anything negative to write about there. And hopefully we won't have that issue with Nelson and Moncrief moving forward here. But overall, two kind of signings that, that you look up the Kevin Colbert handbook of free agent signings, and both these guys are probably going to be in it.
Right, but with Nelson, I mean, they spent good money on him, and hats off to the front office for making an aggressive move. They put in that offer for Bradley Roby. I don't know if we talked about that last show or not, and that would have been for good money as well for a 3-year deal, and they couldn't get him, but they go back with Steven Nelson. So I thought this team would be aggressive. I thought they would have somebody in that $8 million kind of range, and they did, and I think they got a good player in Steven Nelson.
Well, we talked weeks ago how we should be upset and fans should be upset if we don't see them aggressively attack a corner.
Absolutely, or any position really, but specifically I thought corner was the best one to target.
Right, I think we narrowed it down to corner as being the one that I think even one of my quotes in there is we should be upset or question it, and fan listeners should question as well too if they don't go out there and do that, and they did exactly that. So anything else from I know there's speculation that they're not done yet and whatnot. Maybe there's going to be another signing or two, but how much are you buying any of this Justin Houston stuff and all?
I mean, I haven't seen a credible report yet. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm not going to say just because the report isn't well known that it's false, but I'm not going to name names here because I don't want to give these people the attention they're probably seeking. But some of the people that are floating that have clearly been wrong about other things they've quote unquote reported. And so I take it all with a grain of salt until we hear more traction.
Yeah, I agree with that as well too. And if they signed Justin Houston, if they went out and got Justin Houston, who by the way, where do you have his value at now? I mean, it's at least $6 million a season, right?
It's got to be high. It's a 9.5 sack season. This outside linebacker market's hot. I know he's 30, but it's got to be like at least 6 to 7.
In other words, it's not minimum, right?
No, it's not. I know that's your favorite word, but that's not minimum. It's not close to minimum.
All right, if it's not minimum, and he's an outside free agent, and he plays on the defensive side of the football, and you go back all the way to 2001 was the last time when such an animal was signed by Kevin Colbert. I tell you, it's not hard to tell what side of the fence I would put my money on here.
Yeah, they poked the bear last night on Twitter, Dave. You were all fired up.
The worst time to interact with me on the Twitter machine is early in the morning and late at night. It's just
I thought it was any day that ended in Y.
Well, that too, but just leave me alone. All right, yeah. Look, I understand, and don't forget you had the Bud Dupree 5th-year option get fully guaranteed a few days ago. You got this kid named T.J. Watt that you drafted in the first round on the other side. Oh, yeah, you just re-signed Anthony Chickillo to a deal, which I guess now that's a perfect time to segue to. I think we need to go back and have another conversation about Anthony Chickillo here.
Yeah, let's talk about who the Steelers have signed, re-signed, let go, and kind of get to some in-house stuff, and we'll start with the Chickillo contract. And I thought, we first saw the numbers, 2 years, $8 million, we thought, wow, that is pretty high. But as always, and you said this before, I said this start of free agency, you got to look at the structure of these deals, and what you see on the surface is often very different than the actual really terms of the contract, and that seems to be the case with Anthony Chickillo.
Yeah, I think people should. I think people should lower down, or I think you should go back inside with the pitchforks right now. Personally,
yeah.
I'm still not. I'm not. Look, I don't go. We're not going to throw Kevin Colbert a parade here. Okay, but I think when you look at what he got, he received. Let me read off the details I got from Joel Corey here. He received a $2.195 million signing bonus. His base salaries, his base salaries for 2019 and 2020. For 2019, it's the minimum, $805,000. It jumps up to $4.5 million in 2020. So, and he's also due a $500,000 roster bonus in 2022. Now, when you
as in 2020 also, right?
2022. Okay, 2020 also. There's no roster bonus this year. Right. His salary cap charge for 2019 is $1.9025. Last year, if you remember, he played under a restricted tender of 1.907. So his cap charge this year is actually less than it was last year by a little. Now, you gave him in total, you gave him to sign with you this 2-year deal, you gave him $3 million. Mm-hmm. Okay? His cap charge is obviously lower than that at 1.902.5 or 500,000, $1,902,000. You get it, 1.9025.
1.9 million.
Anyway, you gave him $3 million, so you're paying him $3 million to be a backup linebacker and special teams ace for you this season. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, you want to get mad, save it until next March, because that's when, unless he has this is a 1-year, $3 million contract with an option year of $5 million. If you want to get specific about it, that's what it is. So let's look and let's discuss the signing for what it is. And that's a 1-year, $3 million contract.
And that's fine with me. I thought $3 million was about maybe kind of the value I would put him at for any sort of deal, just given the market and with salaries, rising the inflation and the rising salary cap. But yeah, this is the 1-year deal for a core special teamer, a guy they have a lot of trust in. Yes, the pass rush productivity is pretty limited. Yes, you would love to see an Adeniyi or somebody new come in to be that number 3, but he's a 4-phase guy. He was second on the team in special team tackles this year. He's a guy that you trust. And that second year and the big money there is just kind of, I think, their backup plan if Bud Dupree hits free agency and they don't have a lot of other options at the moment. So fine deal with me. No problems with it.
That's a good point. Because let's say nothing happens with Bud Dupree and he ends up walking off into the sunset a year from now. Mm-hmm. You still obviously will hopefully have Watt. Yep. You don't know. I mean, what else do you have? Adeniyi, Adams, but as we talked on this last show, you don't really know what you have right there, right now. You don't know who you're going to get in the draft. So, this at least gives you something on the books and on the depth chart a year from now. And look, if something happens, he has to ball out or whatnot, then and he does, then maybe you got good value there. And at least you have an out. You'll be able to make a decision on him really by next March when it comes to Chickillo. So all Alex and I are saying is don't run laps around the house with your Steelers flag and waving your terrible towel, but put the pitchforks away here.
Yep, it's a smart signing. That's all I can say about that because you want to have some depth there. All right, Dave. Other moves they've had. I don't know where you want to start. I'll just throw names at you. Daniel McCullers coming back. That's the one that's probably the biggest to me because maybe I shouldn't be surprised by this anymore. But I'm a little too naive. But brought back on a 2-year deal. I forget the terms. I think you have it, but I'm sure you have it for $3 million or so. But listen, I'm not going to get too mad about it because it's a relatively small contract. But I just don't get why this team is so enamored with Daniel McCullers.
Every year you try to throw him out and he pops back up again.
Yeah, it's just that back alley cat circles back every morning. Can't get rid of him. You just take him in.
According to reports, it's 2 years, $2.75 million contract. Don't get caught up in that. Haven't seen the actual numbers yet, Alex, but it's going to be minimum base salaries in both the years. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be $1 million in bonuses, but we don't know the structure. I have a feeling that it's going to be only a $500,000 signing bonus and a $500,000 roster bonus next year. All right. So if that's the case, here's what you have invested in him today, around $1.3 million. Okay, with really, you can cut him because you only gave him you have what I think is probably only a $500,000 raw or signing bonus to lose here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so but as we've seen in the past, normally when the Steelers re-sign these guys to more than 1 year deals, bringing them back, they're probably going to stick.
Yeah.
Just as history has shown us. So now the question becomes, does this save you going after a defensive tackle? You obviously have a hole still that you can fill because LT Walton's if LT Walton's brought back, it's going to be for a minimum signing benefit contract.
Yeah.
So that way you're not married to him whatsoever. So I guess the question is this allows you to still have a hole there to fill via the draft versus with a player that can play the 5-4-3-2-1, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you still need a 6 defensive lineman. I just, yes, you don't have to get a nose tackle now, but I kind of want them to get a nose tackle. Go evaluate somebody else, get somebody else. I bet you Mike Pennell up in New England got the same deal that McCullers got, and he's a million times better than Big Dan is. And listen, Big Dan had his 2018 season was his best of his career, and I think Carl Dunbar certainly helped. And I bet you the big reason why McCullers keeps coming back is because Dunbar's in his corner and saying we can make it work. But I just don't know how many years you're going to sit there and go, he's going to turn the corner. He's going to turn the corner. We're going to figure it out. We're going to make it work. And it doesn't happen. I mean, he played 111 snaps this year, and they were pretty nondescript. I just don't know how long. He's going to be 30, and you're going to keep offering him 2-year deals. I just don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, we'll see with him. And once again, I think look, you got you got base salaries of minimums here. I guess it makes you wonder. I guess the biggest question is, was he going to get an offer somewhere else?
Fine. I mean, I don't care. Probably not.
No, well, I guess what I'm getting at is could you let him take a look around and let him come back and I mean.
Well, I guess he did. I mean, he didn't re-sign before the start of the year.
I mean, I just don't understand minimums. It seems like you could have got him on a minimum salary benefit where you're even less invested in him.
I guess I like these 2-year deals. We're giving everybody 2-year deals, so I guess it's not even the money so much as it is the evaluation. What are they seeing in his game that I'm missing that tells them, yes, we want him to come back and contribute?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point because they didn't break the bank with him here. Let's be honest here.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the money is minimal, but just what do they see in his game? What scout, what the coach is saying he's improving, he can help us win. I just don't see it. I mean, he's not a fit for this era. His game hasn't ever really taken the next step outside of below average backup.
All right, the other guy, and we slid this one in right before the end of the last terrible podcast there with Jordan Berry, right?
Yeah, we did get it on the buzzer with another 2-year deal. Was a $750,000 signing bonus. I'm fine with it. I know Berry is not exactly the most popular man in Pittsburgh. I think for what the Steelers ask him to do, he does it pretty well, and that should still also mean the competition is brought in. I don't want Berry to be handed the job. I think somebody else should be brought in during camp to push Berry and make it a competition, but I have no problem with bringing him back.
Yeah, and in fact, when you look at what he's going to make this year on paper, $750,000 plus the $1.15 million base salary. You add those two things together, technically kind of making right at about the same that he made last year for you. All right. Plus, with it only being a $750,000 signing bonus, if he doesn't cut it this offseason, you can cut him. All right, with minimal salary cap damage there. On top of it. And now I'm going to be forced to do this now that he's back under contract. Remember, we got that email the other day saying about that breakdown. I guess, what's the best way to call that post? Available yards. Did I create a new stat? Are we going to be best friends?
There's a lot of questions there. Afraid to answer any of them.
I think we're good. I think I just created a stat there. But whatever you want to call it, kind of the available punting yards that I looked at, and how Berry ranked across the league last year, which wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point now, I've got me a little project to work on during the off season, and I will attempt to justify why the Steelers re-sign Jordan Berry to a 2-year. In other words, I'm going to try to go against the regular flat out punting stats and why they might have lied to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great angle to it. I think they ask him to do more directional punting. They value hang time over distance, and that's why the numbers in terms of the average yards and some of the net yardage isn't as strong. And, he's a guy that does well at pinning it inside the 20 and doesn't have a lot of open-air punt opportunities either. He's punting a lot from the 40, from midfield with the way the offense is typically able to move the football. So, it limits how many yards you can get just off of that alone and how, focused you are on placement. So, again, bring competition in. I'm all for it. But to bring Berry back, I have no problem with.
Last season, Berry punted 63 times for 2,753 yards. His net average was 38.8, but net average includes turn yardage. And I don't know if anybody remembers that one what was his name with the Chargers that took
King.
him back?
That's
King, right? And maybe they missed a block in the back on that. I mean, how much of that net yardage is really Jordan Berry's fault?
Yeah, this was the worst punt return average in football last year, and that was, not all Berry's fault. So that hurts the net. I don't put that on him as much.
Right. And when you look at only 16 of his punts were returned last year.
Right, and that's also the reason why that number for the average yards per punt return is so high, because most of them were fair caught or because of the placement or pinning them deep. And so when you have a limited amount of returns and you have just a handful of good ones, the Des King one, the Tyreek Hill one, week 2, it really jumps that number up. Because I think they were average. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think they were average in yards allowed, but yards per return they were worse in football. 28
of Berry's punts were inside the opponent's 20. 6 went out of bounds. 12 were downed, and 4 went into the end zone for a touchback. 25 of Berry's 63 total punts were fair caught.
It's pretty good numbers to me, and that's, again, speaks to the direction, the placement, and the lack of open-air kicks. A lot of them that are designed to pin teams deep, so that's why the numbers are low on the average.
All right, Eli Rogers, contract told, they turned around and signed him to a new 2-year deal. Haven't seen the numbers on this, but I can guarantee you it's not going to be, it's not going to be a big bite of the apple there. It once again kind of gives you a player that you can do multiple things with. Helps maybe next off season with a few things if you need the help there as well. There's nothing wrong, and I haven't even seen the numbers on this yet, but I wouldn't read too much into it. Probably going to be a cap hit a little less than $1 million still here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fine with it. Effective slot receiver. I like his vertical game more than I like probably Switz's vertical game. Yeah, no problem with that one.
How much do you think you can move him around?
Not a ton. He's not an outside guy. He is really primarily a slot guy, but, a backup punt returner, possible punt returner, him and Switzer. So, they can move him around a tiny bit, but he's effective in the slot.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else we failed to get to here?
Well, L.J. Fort's going to Philadelphia, and that one stings a little bit because I'm a big L.J. Fort fan. I know both of us are, and he goes to a 3-year deal up to $10 million with the Eagles.
Yeah, and I haven't seen. I've seen a couple of different kind of reports on that as well. I don't. I want to take a harder look at that contract and all, but supposedly. I
think it's 3 to 5, but up to 10. I think is how they frame it.
All right. I mean, look. Make no mistake about it. You'd rather have them at a cheap price than not have them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to look at this contract. I mean, he was a good special teams player. He was probably, obviously a lot more gifted in coverage than a guy like Matakevich. I mean, you really don't have anything at the inside. Not that you had it before, but you really don't have anything at inside linebacker right now. I mean, you got worse at the position.
Yeah, I always thought to get Ford a raw deal. We talked about playing him for so long, and I had to tweet yesterday of all the linebackers they chose to play before finally turning them. They played Moats, Spence, Matakevich, Bostic, and they finally, just relented and played for it, and he played it well. I mean, the first game he was in the lineup, Keith Butler saying, okay, I guess we got to play this guy more, and they found a home for him. So if I'm Ford, I was probably looking to leave Pittsburgh because Colbert's comments about not replacing Shazier adequately, knowing they're going to take an inside linebacker, knowing you probably don't have much of a role with Vince still there. If I got another offer, I would have gone somewhere else too.
And didn't the Eagles lose Hicks?
Yep, to Arizona. Yep.
All right, so maybe he's going to have a better shot over there. I mean, I don't blame him for reading the writing on the wall.
Yeah, it was a smart decision to leave.
I think it was as well too, and you got weaker at the position. That's all I can say, and that's already a weak position.
Mm-hmm. So right now you have to draft a starter, and I'm getting a phone call. I'm sorry. 1 second. I have my phone on mute, and it still rings sometimes. You have to replace the starter. Obviously.
That's Art Rooney with calling you.
I wish it was my mother. So I will call her back after. I'm sorry, Mom. So anyway, to circle back, you got to replace the starter, and now you have to replace the backup too, because you got to be 3 deep at inside linebacker. If someone goes down, Vince or whoever the new guy is, you got to bring somebody in, and it can't just be a 2 down, really a 1 down kind of guy like Dirty Red or Bostic. You got to find an athlete there too. So a lot of work to do with inside linebacker.
Speaking of which, the Steelers are taking a close look at one today.
Oh, news to me.
Hi. This kid.
Oh, Michigan. Okay, I'm sorry. Didn't know what your segue was.
Yeah, go. You wrote that up. Go ahead and.
All right. Yeah, I was a little slow on the
One other thing. I want you to start looking at your mother the way Kevin Colbert was looking at Devin Bush.
Okay, that sounds like you might have a complex. Let's move on. Yes, the Steelers are at Michigan's Pro Day today. They sent the house. Colbert, Tomlin, Terrell Austin's there, probably some other guys we don't know quite yet, but yeah, at Michigan, which was a big thing for them. We know the history between first-round picks and Tomlin and Colbert attending their pro day. So you have a ton of good Michigan talent. Chase Winovich, who this team apparently had dinner with yesterday. Cornerback David Long was really impressive at the Combine. Obviously, Rashawn Gary's a top 5, top 10 pick. So yeah, you're going to hear a ton about Devin Bush to Pittsburgh these next 6 weeks.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, he is, not that he wasn't already, but he's the leader in the clubhouse right now, probably, right?
And I know that people will say, will he get to 20? And that's a fair point, but, it's possible. We're not going to rule it out. We've seen this stuff happen before. If he's there, I think he is, as you said, the leader in the clubhouse.
I think he is, too. We'll have to obviously play Where's Colbert the rest of the offseason here. You would think with him being an underclassman as well, too, he's going to be brought in for a pre-draft visit. You would think that they met with him at the Combine, right?
Well, he said he didn't have a meeting scheduled when he talked to reporters, so I don't know if that happened or not. So it may not have happened. But I'm sure they probably dined with him today or last night.
In some capacity. I wonder how long does it take to get from Clemson to Ann Arbor, because they were at the Clemson Pro Day yesterday, right?
Well, at least Tomlin was. I don't know if Colbert was. I didn't hear anything about Colbert.
No, there was a tweet that said Colbert was there.
Was it there? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, Clemson was probably early. It was like a early morning, early afternoon kind of thing. So yeah, they got over there pretty quick, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they was able to have dinner with Bush. It wouldn't be surprising if they did. Obviously, the Dan Rooney Jr. did, right?
Yeah, well, Dan Rooney Jr. had a photo with Chase Winovich. Now, usually with these dinners, there are multiple players at the dinner table, so it's possible that Bush was there too, but we'll have to maybe try to get that information later.
All right, but not shocking that Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin and others are at that pro day.
Yeah, not at all. And, again, a big contingency at Clemson, too, since you mentioned that. Colbert, Tomlin, Dunbar, Osofsky. So, yeah, all the big players were starting to step up.
All right, where else have you spotted the Steelers brass?
Let me pull up
or scouts.
Yeah, let me pull up my Pro Day tracker. We've updated that. We haven't updated, obviously, today, the Michigan stuff yet. We're going to wait for that stuff to kind of come in with the other events and the other schools working out today. But, yeah, they've been a lot of places. We try really hard to get as many as possible and just update the list. So just type in Pro Day tracker if you're looking for that on Steelers Depot. Yesterday, they were at Central Michigan, Clemson, obviously, Tennessee. They've been at Oklahoma, Buffalo, Wisconsin. They had Adrian Clem, the offensive line coach, the assistant offensive line coach, with a couple of the O-line prospects up there. I mean, they've been to a ton of places. New Mexico State, Oklahoma State, Troy. I mean, the whole list is there. So, but in terms of the big players, Colbert and Tomlin, Clemson yesterday, Michigan today.
All right. Where do we need to go from here?
Let's see my list here. Chris Boswell, go back to specialist real quick. It sounds like his contract has been tweaked a little bit, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Ian Whetstone tweeted yesterday, I think it was, that it sounds like something has happened with Boswell's contract. I confirmed that with Joe Corey, former NFL agent, as well, and both of them seem to think that the roster bonus due date has vanished now. So that would make sense for those that may have not been following along too closely. Boswell was due a $2 million roster bonus on the third day of the new league year, and then I think that's actually today. Or within the next 24 hours, I should say, because days in the NFL start at 4:00 Eastern. But regardless, it would make sense that they went to him and said, "Hey, Chris, we're going to need you to move. we're going to need you to move that roster bonus due date back because we want. If not, we're going to cut you." So, and if we cut you, you stand to lose $3 million this year, because that's technically what Chris Boswell is scheduled to make. The $1 million base salary and then the $2 million roster bonus is $3 million. So, if you and would there be a team that would give Chris Boswell $3 million as soon as he's cut by the Steelers? I kind of doubt it right now.
Yeah, me too.
As well. So, what they're essentially telling Chris Boswell is, and we've heard this from Kevin Colbert and Art Rooney II all offseason here, is there's going to be a kicker competition this year, and if Boswell wanted to be invited to it, he needed to move back that roster bonus due date there. This is not 100% confirmed, but it would make a lot of sense as if this is what happened. And you know what? I kind of like that from several angles, just from the obvious, too, is that now there is, in addition to there probably going to be a different kicker other than Matt McCrane on the roster, there's probably going to be another one at some point. We talked about even, could the Steelers maybe even draft one, I don't think you can rule that out definitely now. I think we're going to see another kicker added not long after the draft here or during the draft to compete with those two on top of. But look, there's a lot of pressure now on Boswell. He's going to be kicking for $3 million, and that's some pressure right there. So we'll see how he does from there. But it sounds like this was the course of action, and it's hard not to like it.
What was the roster bonus? $2.5 million?
$2 million.
$2 million. Okay. When do you think that got pushed back? Because, I mean, do you think it's like the start of the season, like a September 1st? It couldn't be like May, because you're in the same spot as you are now, essentially.
Right. I think it's probably you have to make. I think it is, or I think you have to make the 53, and I'm guessing there. Right. But I'm willing to bet that if he makes the 53-man roster, then he gets the $2 million.
Yeah, it was a smart decision, because that was the dilemma before I posed with Boswell, is that you want to see if he can turn it around because you've seen his work in the past, but what is the cost of doing business? Do you want to pay a $2 million entrance fee to see Chris Boswell maybe or maybe not make the roster? So if you could work something out, I think that was the best compromise possible.
Here's the thing, and people say, would they have really cut him? And I think, the answer is yes, because even if you deleted his contract right now, he was scheduled, I think, to count $4.2 million against the team's salary cap this year. Okay, and that's with the with the $2 million roster bonus in there. If you cut him with the amortized dead money, that it would have cost you $4.8 million in dead money. So, $600,000 was the difference in the wrong direction for the Steelers. But it's still doable. It's not like It's not like that AB contract out there, you know.
Yeah.
Now the course of action that probably would have happened is being as after the end of the new or after the start of the new league year here, what you probably would have done was cutting and designating a post June 1st hit, so that way, you carry that minimal cap hit of his of $4.2 million up until June 1st, and then it comes off. You save $3 million this year, and then you would have had a 2020 dead money charge of $3.6 million. So had they needed to cut him, which it doesn't look like they are, we'll know today for sure. Because if you're going to cut him, if that roster bonus is still in play where it is and they wanted to cut him, today's the day, obviously, to do it. And had they done that, it would have probably been with a post-June 1st designation on that. It doesn't seem like we're going to have to talk about any of that anymore moving forward here, because it does indeed sound like he's going to stick around, and he's going to stick around with a delay on that $2 million roster bonus.
Dave, I do want to talk about another player and potentially being cut, but before I do that, how about you tell us about our friends over at MyBookie with March Madness about to start up?
Yeah, March Madness, and I think they even got the what's the conference out here, the Midwest or whatnot that out here. Anyway, they usually have these tournaments in Vegas every year. I think it might be going on at the Orleans again this year here. But first weekend of the NCAA tournament is the greatest betting event of the year. Whether you like filling out a bracket, picking a national champion, predicting first-round upsets, or all of the above, MyBookie.ag is the perfect home for your March Madness fun. Will Zion Williamson and his teammates cement their legacy at Duke with the title this year? Can Virginia get past its loss to a number 16 seed last year? And can Kentucky get back to the Final Four this year? If you know the answers to all those questions, or even if you don't, MyBookie is the place to get in on the action. They have something for everyone once again this year. Even you, multiple bracket guy. They're talking to me. I'm multiple bracket guy.
Not me.
MyBookie has been in business for years, as all of you know by now. Their goal is to give you the best customer service in the business, and the best part is they pay out fast when you win. I'm talking within 48 hours, kind of fast there. Bet with the best, then kick back and enjoy March Madness while you watch your picks cash in, or in my opinion, watch as my brackets burn. Burn! Deposit with MyBookie.ag today with promo code TERRIBLE. That's just how Dave does his brackets. Terrible. Use that. Go there right now. Get off this podcast right now and go to MyBookie.ag. Sign up. Use that promo code TERRIBLE and get a 50% sign up bonus. It's promo code TERRIBLE with MyBookie. You play, you win, and you get paid.
Zion Williamson, man, he had a great return for Duke. Was that last night? 20-something points, didn't miss a shot.
Oh, really? I missed all that.
Hey, well, I'm going to beat you in March Madness. I feel pretty good about that.
Hey, by the way, are we going to do a bracket or something for the listeners?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I've designated you to be chairman.
Oh, I am shocked by that. No, I'll definitely set something up.
All right, sounds good. So look, go do that, and get involved with our March Madness tournament that Alex will be setting up here pretty soon.
All right, Dave, the player I wanted to talk about, and I've gotten a lot of questions, and hey, I'm just as confused as anybody or as unsure as anybody, but Morgan Burnett's still on this roster. You got any reason why? I have a guess, but any reason why you think Burnett's still hanging around?
Yeah, I think they want to keep their. I think they don't want to pin themselves in a corner right yet.
Yeah, I think is he J.J. Wilcox going to get cut off of the draft?
I think that's a good point. I think he very well could be this year's J.J. Wilcox, because at 5, what you can do is you can keep your options open right now. I mean, because obviously, look, if you cut him right now, who do you have behind him? I mean,
Marcus Allen. That's about it.
Right, Marcus Allen, and because Burray's a free agent. I mean, you have nothing else, right?
I mean, you have Dangerfield, but I'm talking about the dime roll. I think
right.
Fits that.
So you get to the draft. You can run all the way up against the cap right now without having to keep money set aside for. Let's look at what that Alex, let's look what that $5 million could buy you.
Ooh,
with salary cap.
A new
money.
Car.
No, not a new car, but you can afford your entire 2019 draft class, undrafted free agents, probably a practice squad there. Okay. So that's what that $5 million in cap space will get you there. So why not use that? Or, better way to look at it, the Steelers like to keep probably this year between $4 and $5 million in season cap space to work with. There it is, right there. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the best way to frame Morgan Burnett and what he can eventually save you right now. I still think there's no way that he hangs around, and it might be a little bit of a punishment as well too. Right. If you want to come out and tell us that you don't like us and we have you under contract, we're going to do what's best for the franchise then, and if that means keeping you out of free agency, for a couple extra months. Not that the Steelers are looking at that way to be vindictive, but hey, I think Kevin Colbert has told us during the combine that we're going to do what's best for the franchise when it comes to Morgan Burnett. And it looks like that's what they're going to do. I don't let him back in that locker room to work out right now and risk him suffering a season-ending injury, right? I mean, I think you go up until the draft. The day after the draft, you cut him.
Yeah, I think the reason why he's here is because you have enough cap space that you can make all the moves that you want to make without Burnett impacting that. And until you draft his replacement, until you're sure of that, until you have that name, on the roster, that you're going to hold on to him, just in case you don't, or just to give yourself that option and that flexibility. So because there's no bonuses due to him like there is with other players, because you have the cap space to make the moves that you want to make, I'm guessing that's the reason why he's still here. And I believe that assuming they get a replacement in the draft for some sort of dime back or some sort of safety prospect, then you'll see Burnett cut, like you said, the day after, just as J.J. Wilcox was last year.
Right. I think now that we've gotten this far, of course, we'll get off this podcast today and then Morgan Burnett be cut. But look, it's still if normally, generally, when you look at Kevin Colbert's history when it comes to this, those deletions are usually made right there after they get back from the combine up until the start of the new league year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if they're not, then they become post-draft deletions. So I don't think there's any doubt still in both of our heads that he's going to be gone. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I sure hope not, because he's not a fit for this team and the way that the league is going. Dave, I also wanted to ask you about the Ben extension. A lot of questions about that. Surprised it hasn't happened yet? I mean, any news you can bring to us about when and why it hasn't happened yet?
By the time we get on this podcast next, it should be done. All right. Maybe they're just waiting to see. Look at what else maybe they want to do. Maybe if they have to clear maybe an additional money, to be able to afford it. I think if you look at this thing though, Alex, where they are salary cap wise, and obviously we're running a couple of days behind because a few of these other contracts have not hit. I want to prepare people that maybe the Steelers do only. I'm not saying they will. But be prepared for them only to do a 2-year extension with Ben, mm-hmm. and in doing so, keep his cap number exactly the same. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can take this thing with him. I mean, you can do a 4-year extension with him, and of course, help you lower his 2019 number down. That to me right now. Do you need the cap space? Do you need mm-hmm. to have that number down? And is that the only reason you would do a 4-year extension? So right. Don't be surprised. I'm not saying it is, and I'm going to pat myself on the back if it is. mm-hmm. But don't be surprised if it's a 2-year extension. In other words, making Roethlisberger play in the next 3 years, and in doing so, his cap number not changed nearly one bit, because they've made it through the bulk of the free agency right now without it. We already talked to where we know that they can get another $5 million here, mm-hmm. and there's bound to be another deletion or two along the way on top of it.
Yeah, if you don't have the structure that you need to save the money in 2019, then you don't do it because there's no compelling reason to. But yeah, I'm just curious about that. I assume it's still going to happen. It's just waiting for that to happen.
And what if it doesn't?
I mean, it would shock me first of all, but yeah, I don't know how I would interpret that.
Well, what you do is then you get into a situation where you do those back-to-back tags.
Oh my God, I'm still on that. I just want to do the extension so you can shut it with the tags.
No, I'm just saying that's your only option, right?
Well, I guess you could extend them after this season.
Right, but I mean, sure you could, but I mean, you're going to at least lock him up with a tag first.
I'm not going to tag Ben.
I'm not saying we get that far, okay? But if you pay him that, if it gets past the next 24 hours in that roster bonus, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're probably not going to do an extension after today.
Yeah, because what is it, a $5 million roster
bonus? $5 million roster bonus. The whole idea about doing it now is so you can roll up that good chunk of what he's due base salary this year and that $5 million roster bonus into the larger new money roster bonus. I mean, that's why all the talk. That's why it's been that March 15th or 16th or whatever is kind of the deadline, because it's when that roster bonus is due. So if it's not announced within the next, by Saturday at 4 p.m., then odds are he's not getting an extension this year.
Yeah, that would be strange. Very, very strange.
And then, like I said, what's next? And I know you don't like talking about it, but I mean, we got to set ourselves up for what happens if it isn't. And if it isn't done this year, then it becomes franchise tag time for him.
All right, well, let's cross that bridge if when we come to it. The last thing I want to talk about for today before we get to some read emails is you wanted to mention the Le'Veon Bell situation. I know a lot of fans probably are tired of hearing about it, but it is interesting to just kind of compare what he got with the Jets now that we really know the full details of his contract and compare that to what the Steelers offered. So I'll turn it over to you, Dave, because you've studied this more than I have and have more knowledge there. And what's your evaluation of what Bell got and how his decision worked or didn't work out?
Boy, I mean, the numbers look worse than what I thought. I thought he was going to get $20 million in 2019 alone, but it doesn't even look like he's gotten that. According to the numbers that are out there now and compiled and kind of put into form, this should be correct, but it looks like he got a signing bonus of just $8 million. All right. It sounds like the Steelers were going to give him a $10 million signing bonus last July. A base salary in 2019 of $2 million. A roster bonus, which is probably due very quickly here this year, of $4 million this year, and it looks like he has per game roster bonuses throughout the 4 years of his contract of totaling $500,000. So those obviously, he'd has to play all 16 games to get an extra $500,000 each year. So if you look at just roster bonus, $4 million this year, signing bonus $8 million, it's $12 million. You look at the base salary, that's $14 million. Let's go ahead and give him the $500,000 roster. He's pocketing basically the tag money this year. The tag money that he turned down last year, is what he's going to earn in 2019. Now, you can look at the other kind of what guarantees that come in. I forget now. They're saying he's guaranteed what, $26 million, $25 million. Do you remember what the number floating around is?
I haven't even looked at it, to be honest. I tried to ignore it as much as I can.
All right, so yeah, okay, he's guaranteed $25 million through the first 2 years of the deal. Which, by the way, it looks like he's set to earn a $6.5 million base salary in 2020. Another roster bonus of $4.5 million that's probably due next March, and then the in-game per game roster bonus of $500,000. Once again, it looks like $11 million guaranteed of that is guaranteed there. So it does look indeed like the per game roster bonus of $500,000 in first 2 years is guaranteed. So in other words, roughly the first 2 years of this deal is fully guaranteed. Why is it worth it to? I mean, like we said, he would have pocketed $33 million through 2019 had he signed a deal with the Steelers, whereas he's only going to make in 2019 $14.5 million with this deal in the Jets. Mm-hmm. So, his side is saying, what if I would have gotten hurt on that franchise tag or on that deal with the Steelers? I would be SOL. So I guess it depends on what side you want to side on this. From a cash flow standpoint, he is behind. There's no doubt about it. And he's behind $18 and $19 million, $20 million. Right. Was it worth it to lock himself up the 20-something million that he got? I guess that's what it comes down to. Was it worth sitting out to know that I went from $14.5 million guaranteed to 23, 4, whatever million guaranteed?
Yeah, and he'll say it is because there wasn't the injury risk there, and that's fine. If he's happy, then hey, more power to him. He still got paid well, but I think it's pretty clear his market wasn't as strong as he thought it would be.
Didn't we talk the other day about whether or not we thought he would be with the Jets past 2020? You willing to change your prediction here?
Yeah, I think he still will be. Yeah.
Boy, they sure have a nice out now.
They do.
I mean, you basically can cut him. If you cut him in March of 2021, before that roster bonus is due, that $3 million roster bonus is due, you have a $4 million dead money hit on Le'Veon Bell.
Not too bad.
So the Jets won here, right?
Yeah, I think it's a really good deal for the Jets. Obviously, getting with talent that in Bell's what the second highest paid back in the league. He was behind the Gurley deal, correct? Did you look at the Gurley
think
deal?
That's how they're kind of framing this thing right now.
You get a really good talent. You didn't have to up the Gurley deal. That's great. And Bell said I don't know if it was the only other offer, but he said San Fran offered 3 years, $38 million. He said it was virtually all guaranteed. I'm not sure quite what that means, but that would have worked out to, I think, about 12.4 per year.
Him having to frame it that way, but was it? Oh, now all of a sudden we can use the word virtually guaranteed and it be okay, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Dave uses it in a post. It's like he made a deal with the devil or something. Mm-hmm. See, it's all in the devil. The devil's in the details here and how these things are framed. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the contracts, and I think really I was talking about the Chickillo contract earlier is a good example of sometimes it's better to wait to pass judgment until you see the actual numbers.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, let's close out the show here with some reader emails, to 2 or 3 of them.
All right, let's see. We got some good ones here as well, too, from Kaylor Winterburn. Thanks for taking time to answer our questions. Appreciate it. Are you worried at this point the Steelers may be keeping Morgan Burnett? Also, have we seen Sean Davis's ceiling? I think we just talked about Morgan Burnett, Caleb, so let's not double back to that there. But that's a good question about Sean Davis's ceiling.
No, I don't want to say we've necessarily seen it yet. I mean, I want to see him year 2 at free safety. I'm sure the first part of that year was kind of getting comfortable in that position, being comfortable with how heavy that position is from a communication standpoint, really being the guy, becoming a leader without Mike Mitchell in the back end, was kind of one of the leaders in the secondary while Sean Davis was early in his career. So I don't want to see he's at a ceiling, but I don't know how much higher that ceiling is. He's clearly not going to be a 6-7 interception kind of ball hawk, big playmaker like that. He's really going to be that steady force as long as he can be clean with his tackling and be a good communicator. So there's a little left there, but it's not a huge jump forward.
All right, draft question, round 1, Chad Bruns, and the phonetic spelling of that is not Burns. Chad Bruns. Chad writes in, "Hey, Dave and Alex, do you think we could see Colbert trade up in round 1 to secure one of the Devons at middle linebacker? I know we typically do not, but with Colbert's comments should not adequately replacing Shazier, I wonder if it's more likely. Do do you guys feel there is anyone with potential to be that coverage middle linebacker in both the Devons go before pick 20 there? I think we've kind of addressed this already a little bit, Chad. But look, Kevin Colbert's not afraid to trade up. There's haven't been situations where the trade has either been accepted or he's felt the need to have to go up for a player that he likes. I think with the arsenal that he has now here with these 10 draft picks, we're going to see him go up somewhere in this draft. Like Alex and I said, Chad, I don't know if you heard the last podcast, but Alex and I basically said, if one of these Devons is the guy that you can't live without and you have to go up 3 or 4 spots, 5 spots to get him, then that's what you do. So we just talked about them being at the one Devons Pro Day here at Michigan today. That locks him in as leader in the clubhouse. They are going to be at that LSU Pro Day. I mean, with Greedy and the other Devon there, I mean, it will be shocking if they're not at that other LSU Pro Day there. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance. And what do you do if both those Devons are off the board or you can't go up and get them?
Yeah, it's not a good place to be. You're finding somebody else. You're finding a Terrell Hanks. You're finding a Blake Cashman. You're looking at dime guys that can basically work at that. So Chauncey, yep. Chauncey Gardner. That's not good for the listeners. I'm just going to be honest with you.
It hurts. You think it hurts their ears?
I think it hurts my ears. I think it hurts their ears too. Yeah, so you're looking at Amani Hooker, a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Taylor Rapp, Jonathan Abrams, someone like that. You have to get creative with it. But yeah, I think they certainly could trade up. They tried to trade up last year for Rashaan Evans. It obviously didn't work out. This year at a little higher spot, it might be a little bit easier to do. You got 10 draft picks. You got comp picks coming next year in all likelihood. So yeah, to see them trade up would not be a surprise.
Most likely position to draft. This is here's a question from Dave Bryan. Alex,
can I get the phonetic spelling on it?
Brian.
Thanks.
Dear Alex, I'm a big fan of your work. I would like to know what 3 positions are most likely to be drafted by the Steelers in the first round now that you've seen all that's transpired in free agency. Peace and love, Dave.
It's like a Dear Abby column. Inside linebacker, receiver, the top 2 easy ones. The third one is a little trickier. You could argue different stuff. I mean, you could still go corner. I think it's less likely, obviously, off the Nelson signing. I'll say some sort of dime guy. So inside linebacker, receiver, and a dime guy.
So you're still not throwing tight end in there. I tried to trip you out that.
I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to say it's impossible. And obviously losing Jesse creates that void there. But would it be in my top 3? No. Receivers over tight end.
Are they? Speaking of which, are they going to go get them some Max Williams or something here? I mean, it would be typical, right?
It would be a smart decision, I think. But they like Grimble, so I don't know. We'll see.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think there's a chance we could see a minimum salary guy here in tight end any moment now. All right, let's see where we're at here. Frank Navarro or Frank. Let's see. Hey, Dave and Alex. My name is Frankie F. Frankie. I recently found your podcast and loving every second of it. My question is just Artie Burns. Why is he here? Will he go? Does the Nelson signing assist on his departure? Yins, keep up the awesome work. Thanks, Frankie. Well, Artie Burns has $800,000 roster bonus if he's still on the roster by the 3rd day of training camp. That's a weird date for a roster bonus there. That said, he's not going anywhere right now. I mean, he's not killing you cap wise. You take him to camp. I think you take him to camp with you, and you see what you can do there. At worst, look, here's what you don't do. You don't pick up his 5th-year option. And I think that's signed and sealed and delivered right there. You don't pick up his 5th-year option. You you go ahead and pay him that $800,000 roster bonus for training camp there, and you see what you can do with him. At worst, he becomes a depth guy for you, and then maybe you get something enough out of him that he becomes attractive in free agency somehow a year from now. But there's no there's no reason to cut Artie Burns right now. Absolutely zero.
I agree you don't cut him now, but let me ask you this. If you draft a corner somewhere, let's say first couple rounds, maybe you get a guy double dipping in day 3, do you even pay out that $800,000 roster bonus? Do you cut him before training camp? Or after the draft, even potentially? If you sit there and say there's no path for him to make the roster, why are we going to pay an extra $800,000 for him?
Well, yeah, but I mean, so many things can happen during.
That's fair. I'm just asking the question.
No, I mean the $800,000. I'll spend the money on the ticket.
Okay.
Just because he deserves one last chance. You've got a first round draft invested in him, draft pick invested with him. Go. You already the apple's already turning bad. Go ahead and wait until it's fully bad before you toss it out with the trash. So, no, I mean, I carry him, and I know that's not a popular decision right now, and the odds of him turning this thing around are slim and none. But you owe it to yourself to see this thing all the way through at this point. And look, he can play you some special teams, right? So, carry him for that and carry him for as a depth guy on the depth chart there. I don't do anything with him right now.
Keep the apples even when they're bad. Do not eat the fruit at Dave Bryan's house. That's a mental note I'm making.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Nick Scaluli. Love you guys' content. Keep up the good work. My father, age 65, who grew up in Oakland, Pittsburgh, and his brother are my two favorites to talk about past Steelers players with. One guy they often bring up is Donte Shell. After doing a little research, I see why my dad and uncle hype him so much. Is there any chance he gets into the Hall of Fame? Nick, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know where we stand on this. I really think he does deserve in there, and we're going to try to help make the push on our end for Donte Shell to get in eventually, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at what he did, especially after the 2079 team that won the Super Bowl, if you frame just that stuff only and what he did, I think it's worthy of it. So yeah, in short, we think he belongs there, and that's not just a homeristic take there on top of it. And Alex, I think you agree there.
Yep, fighting the good fight over here.
From Chris in Connecticut, after the combine, there's no way Bush and White will be there at 20. We got one of those. There's no way he's going to be there, guys. None of the last 3 years inside linebackers made it there either. Would you trade up to get one of them, most likely losing a third in the process, or just pick the best wide receiver such as Butler? Chris, it goes back to, once again, it's how much in love are Kevin Colbert with either one of these two Devons. Plain and simple. If you feel you cannot live without one of them, and you think he can be the guy, that to fill that hole that you drastically need filling, and it costs you a third or your second even to move up. You trade first and you have to swap, or you have to give up a second. If you believe believe he's the guy, yes, you do it. Now, I'm not talking going up 10 spaces or whatnot, and I don't think you'd have to do that. I'm not thoroughly convinced that one of the two Bushes won't be there at 20. But if he is your guy, if Devin Bush is your guy, and it gets to 18, and you're convinced he's not going to make it, then yeah, you trade the third and you go up and get him.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think it's possible that you will have to do that. But I will also say, Bud Dupree wasn't supposed to fall to the Steelers. David DeCastro wasn't supposed to be there for the Steelers. So we've heard that song and dance before, and it doesn't always come true.
All right, from Cameron Andrews. What's up, fellas? It's Cameron Andrews again. I love the work y'all do as always. A few questions. Do you see us double dipping in a draft for a tight end or inside linebacker after the good moves we pulled in free agency, getting Donte and Steven? Or could you see us double dipping for a wide receiver or corner? Do you think they will bring in a vet running back, or do you see us drafting one? And why do everybody hate on Big Dan? He's okay to me. 6'7", 320, one sack, but forced an interception against Tampa. That's a good. It brings up a good point that we don't talk about enough. Is that that pick six by Bud Dupree against Tampa? That was all Dan McCullers there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But is defensive lineman high on the draft board now? No, I think it's a position you draft later. Last question: do you see a lot of 5 receiver sets next year, or dual backfield with James and Jalen? Boy, a lot to chew on there. Double dipping. Look, double dipping tight end, I think would be silly to do. Inside linebacker, I don't know. You can make arguments for doing that as we sit here today. Do you see us double dipping for a wide receiver or corner? Not so much wide receiver. Corner, I kind of doubt it there. Do you think they'll bring in a vet running back? If they do bring in a vet running back, it's going to be for a minimum salary benefit. That's it. Why do everybody hate on Big Dan? Take all of that, Alex, and chew on it.
Yeah, which McCullers is just frustration that it's never really gotten to that point where he's played much. He averaged 6 snaps a game last year, and yeah, there have been moments, where you've seen a little something, but that's the frustrating part. You've seen those very occasional flashes, and it's just then the lights out again for the next 6 weeks. So that's the frustration there, and you just feel like you got to move on at some point and say, we tried, it didn't work, let's get someone else new in there, and they haven't done that. With the receiver sets, no, you're not going to see 5 receiver sets, but they ran a lot of 4 receiver sets the back half of last year, the Saints game in particular. So I think you could definitely see some 4 receiver sets again in 2019.
All right, from a Matthew M. David Alex, first time question asker, but long time listener and reader. All right,
I think I know who that is.
No, it's Matthew, not our Matthew M.
No, I don't know. I feel like it might be Matthew M here.
Huh?
No, you don't think it's Matthew Marksy playing a little trick?
No, it's not. No.
I'm just
two questions below. First, given Colbert's desire to never be locked into a position of the draft, do you see the Steelers making a notable addition at tight end prior to the draft? I think we just talked about that. If they do, it won't be notable. It'll be a Max Williams or did Jeff Harmon sign yet, Alex?
I haven't seen it. I don't believe he has.
I think it's going to be one of these lower end pedigree guys, the guys that Alex and I kind of framed earlier in the podcast there. If so, is it at the expense of Grimble? No, it's not going to be at the expense of Grimble. Grimble is here until to see if he can make the roster is what that $2.2 million tender is. Dribble's guaranteed nothing beyond that right now, albeit it's likely that he's probably going to make the roster after getting that tender, but you're not locked into it. Second, in regards to free agency as a whole, what position do you think there is, has been, will be value at? I.e. last year, quality players at safety were available for less money as compared to this year and past years. I think when you look at the piles and how they've been picked over right now, Matthew, it's probably going to be safety again, where you can peel one off the pile for a pretty decent money there. Alex, do you disagree with my comments on tight end at all?
Nope, I agree wholeheartedly. At tight end and safety, yeah, I think once again, I said this before, free agency, once the top guys got paid, like Landon Collins, like Earl Thomas, everyone else was going to have to really take whatever they could get.
From Brandon McClement, David Alex greetings. Alex, I'm a Clarion grad.
Hey. Good on you.
Alex, you are famous worldwide.
Hey.
You do a great job. Go see you. I like that 9 spot that the Bills possess to get something real nice. What would be fair compensation to move up to 9? Wow.
That's going to be a lot. You don't want to know the answer to that. It's going to cost you a third and next year's third or something.
All right.
It's going to cost a lot.
Looks like...
Let's do one more.
Denise Keller tried to send this last week, had a wrong email done to me. AB had similar terrible public splits with Nico, the chef, Bo, the trainer, and the Steelers. Could have been the same with girlfriend Chelsea if she doesn't overlook his behavior. Perhaps Dr. Mel has psychology colleague that could weigh in. AB is a mess. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you there. When it comes to him, he has been kind of a mess. Maybe Mel will hear this, and maybe in the future we'll have her on to talk about something along those lines there. There is one other one that I wanted to read here. Alex, dang. It was someone from Brazil. 1 and
I
2.
think did they tweet at us about it?
Yeah. Here it is. I wanted to make sure I got this one in because I just wanted to say how famous Alex is worldwide. Hi guys, my name is Kyo, or pronounced Kyle. Haha. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm a big fan of the show. I don't miss a single one. I'm from Recife, Brazil. Look how worldwide, how famous Alex and the Terrible Podcast is in Brazil. I love reading this stuff. I love the work you guys do covering the Steelers, and I don't miss a single tweet from Dave, Alex, or Matthew. I really do appreciate the hard work you guys do, and helps me to know what goes on with the Steelers from so far away. My question is, with the Steelers re-signing Alualu and McCullers, and already having Hargrave locked in for the season, is there any chance the Steelers go after a defensive lineman in the draft? Last year of Hargrave's rookie contract. Thank you very much for your attention. I will stay tuned in for every single Terrible Podcast and hopefully write more emails to you guys. Kyle, that is a great email, and it really gives us pause sometimes when we sit back and we think about how worldwide this show reaches and how famous Alex Kozora is worldwide. It probably
settle down over there.
Do they have Alex Kozora big heads in that you can buy from Fathead or whatever? That would be great to have there. Listen, Kyle, I think they draft a defensive lineman. I think you get one fifth, sixth, seventh round. Hopefully, a guy with some athleticism. Hopefully, a guy that can maybe compete early in his career. There, maybe a guy that's your sixth inactive or your sixth defensive lineman that's inactive for half the year. That maybe you start getting on the field during the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody, hopefully, they can play up and down the line to kind of replace that LT Walton role, or somebody that can be the actual true backup nose tackle to try to push McCullers some more. And with Hargrave in the last year, his rookie deal is a good point. I hope and I think they'll extend them before the season starts.
Yeah, and at least at least if you address that now, you get yourself in a position where you don't have to, but you would think that sometime between now and the start of training camp that Hargrave will get a new deal. And that new deal on top of it hopefully would maybe lower his cap charge just a teeny tiny bit. But I mean, it's not necessary to go that way there. All right. Anything else, Alex, to add on all this?
Nope, that's all for me.
All right. Check Twitter real quick for any late breaking news.
Yeah, right. Always happens.
We're not seeing anything there, I don't think there. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com and hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. We also have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. Go to SteelersDepot.com, and for $25 for a calendar year, for 12 months, you can get an ad-free version of the site. Well worth the money, and plus it helps our cause as well, too. We invite you to go that route. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.